Good afternoon and a warm welcome to this special broadcast of Parliament coming to you live from our studios in Cape Town. In just a few minutes, we will have the debut of Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa in the National Council of Provinces. He will respond to both written and oral questions. Ramaphosa is, of course, the leader of government business and responds to the House in that capacity. We see that proceedings are yet to get underway in the House, so let's take a quick look at some of the questions that he will have to respond to. The first question that the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa will have to respond to comes from the Democratic Alliance, and they're asking him about the Ministerial Advisory Council on Energy and regarding the privatization of the energy sector in South Africa and the role that the private sector can play in resolving the energy crisis. He will also have to answer to a question from the EFF. Now, last week, proceedings, at least in the National Assembly, were disrupted when the EFF answered a question to President Jacob Zuma. When the party felt that President Zuma at least had not answered their questions satisfactorily, they stood up and they started banging on the desks of the House, and that led to the House being suspended. Fortunately for us, proceedings did get underway quite smoothly yesterday and there were no issues. We spoke to some of the members of Parliament earlier this week, and they were saying that they do not expect the events of last week to unfold. So, when the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa responds to the question of the EFF later this afternoon, we do expect that there will be no problems. But the question from the EFF relates to a commission to investigate the extent of tax evasion, capital flight from South Africa. They want to know if there aren't such commissions established. If not, why not? One of the other questions that the Deputy President will have to respond to is whether government has communicated the unequivocal and strongest condemnations that have been expressed. We see now that proceedings are finally underway in the House. Let's listen in.
Members, I have been informed by the Whippery that they have agreed that there will be no notices of motions or motions without notice. Before we proceed, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa. Welcome, sir. Honourable members, we will now proceed with the questions as printed on our question paper, and I therefore would like to invite the Deputy President to come to the podium. Thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Thank you. Chairperson of NCOP, honourable members, it is a real joy and a pleasure for me to appear before you to answer the questions that have been put forward to me. This is a maiden appearance to the NCOP. So thank you for the special welcome, and hope that the questions will also be especially nice. In relation to question 1, honourable members have been informed by the Department of Energy that the Ministerial Advisory Council on Energy has not yet been established. The Energy Ministry has received a number of nominations for the Council and is currently processing a list of up to 180 nominations that they have received. I believe that once appointed, the names of all Advisory Council members will duly be made public. On the second part of the question, The private sector has a significant role to play in resolving our energy shortfall by participating in programs that seek to boost our electricity generation capacity. The private sector is therefore expected, and I think many in the private sector would like to participate. They are expected to augment ESCOM's build program through the Independent Power Producer Program, the IPP, in terms of which generation capacity will be constructed on a BOT basis, which is build, operate, and transfer. The BOT process has worked very well in a number of environments around the world, and I believe that it can serve us well here as well. The regulatory framework governing the electricity sector has been revised to facilitate the procurement of power from the private sector, and with the private sector participating enthusiastically. To date, the Department of Energy has determined the quantity of megawatts to be derived from renewable energy sources, such as wind, solar, small hydro, and biomass. Most of these will be produced by private sector players or independent power producers. Already, the Department of Energy has committed up to 4,000 megawatts of renewable energy generation through private sector funding. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, sir. Honourable Labuschagne.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much, Honourable Deputy President, for the answer. I would like to know, given your role as Leader of Government Business, I would like to know, has government considered the creation of an independent entity to control national power grid and to allow for access to private entities to the grid, as you explained now?
Well, that matter is indeed under discussion, and if we listened to what the President said during the SONA address, the concentration or the focus on our energy generation is going to result in the restructuring of our energy generation distribution and all the related processes. So that is under consideration. If you recall, the President did say that in due course he will be coming back and making a number of announcements in that regard.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honourable members, are there any supplementary questions? None. Honourable.
Thanks very much, Honourable Chair. To Deputy President, the energy sector is critical to the development agenda of our country, as you've just articulated. I would like the Deputy President to share with the House whether this sector will create new opportunities for entry for previously disadvantaged people, and also just to indicate what will be the role of the finance or the lending institution in this regard to facilitate this market for the development of entrepreneurship. Thanks.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. The focus that the President put on the energy sector in the State of the Nation address should go to tell us that this is an area of great focus by the Government of the Republic of South Africa, as it falls within the infrastructure program that we have embarked upon. And restructuring and refocusing the energy delivery in our country is going to unleash a lot of opportunities for a number of players. A number of aspects of that energy generation and distribution will lead to the type of restructuring that will enhance opportunities, job opportunities, manufacturing opportunities, and indeed a number of new players such as previously disadvantaged players and companies can come to the fore and take up various opportunities. What are we looking at? We're looking at, for instance, a full energy mix that is going to encompass not only coal, but go beyond coal, shale gas, oil and gas, and solar, wind, and in all those, there will be opportunities that will be unlocked, and the financing thereof clearly is something that I'd like to believe that financial institutions, when they see a clear business case, will be prepared to come to the fore and provide funding. And indeed, our own developmental financial institutions should be able to give great assistance in this regard.
Thank you, Deputy President. Is there any other follow-up question? The Honourable Abuskachni.
Thank you very much, Chair. Deputy President, in your reference that you made that the President referred to restructuring, would you like to share with us how many of the Cabinet Ministers support the creation of the privatization of the energy sector?
Well, the President leads the Cabinet, and it's not a divided Cabinet. It's a united Cabinet. And that is what the President leads. He does not oversee or lead a divided Cabinet. So when Cabinet meets and discusses matters, it discusses matters in a unified way. And when decisions are taken, those decisions bind all members of the Cabinet. So when matters are still in discussion, I think we should wait until full discussion has taken place and when a conclusion has been announced. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. That concludes the discussions and the responses on question 1. We proceed to question number 2.
Thank you, Chairperson. In relation to question number 2, there is a plan to establish a commission to investigate tax evasion or capital flight from South Africa. The issue of tax evasion clearly is a very important one in our country, and it should be an important one for all citizens in South Africa. Tax evasion and the illegal transfer of capital across borders is dealt with by relevant authorities in our country, and these include the South African Revenue Service, SARS, the South African Reserve Bank, SARB, and the law and prosecuting authorities. As part of their routine activities, SARS and the South African Reserve Bank continually assess taxpayers, and they also continually assess significant financial transactions where they believe that such activities are not declared or are not legitimate. The most significant form of tax evasion practices are often done via what they call base erosion profit shifting, often referred to as BEPS, which describes tax planning strategies that rely on mismatches and gaps that exist between the tax rules of different jurisdictions. These strategies are designed to minimize the corporation tax that is payable overall by either making tax profits just to disappear or by shifting profits to low tax operations where there is little or no genuine activity. In most cases, these strategies are not illegal. Largely, they exploit differences in tax rules between countries. This essentially is a global problem, and for this reason, the OECD has commenced a major research project that is aimed at sharpening the mechanisms to deal with transfer pricing and base erosion. In South Africa, the former Minister of Finance appointed a tax review committee chaired by Judge Dennis Davis, and he did this so that we can move towards evaluating the South African tax system against internationally accepted tax trends, principles as well as practices, and to improve tax compliance and to deal with problems of base erosion. The committee is expected to produce its report later this year, and I'm sure many of us are looking forward with great anticipation to the production of this report or publishing of this report. On the second part of the question, I wish to point out that capital flows are necessary for economic growth. The Reserve Bank monitors outflows and inflows through the administration of exchange control in terms of a delegation by the Minister of Finance. To the extent that the Reserve Bank identifies any criminal violations, it reports such activities to the prosecuting authorities over and above any administrative action it may take. Exchange control policy is regularly updated in the light of global developments. Over the years, government simplified the financial services regulatory environment for firms that wish to invest in Africa by easing the restrictions on commodity-based exchange-traded funds and increasing the macro-prudential limit for banks to facilitate further expansion of South African banks into Africa. To the extent that there are any criminal transgressions with regard to taxation or money transfers, the relevant authorities take appropriate steps, including referring cases for the prosecution authorities. The Reserve Bank and the South African Revenue Services work closely together to monitor capital flow movements. Application for cross-border transactions often require tax clearance by the South African Revenue Service to ensure tax risks are being reduced. Ongoing interaction between the two means that, as far as possible, attempts to move capital offshore for tax reasons are reduced. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honourable Mates.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you, Honourable Deputy President. I must admit I was expecting a little bit more of a pointed response, Deputy President, a more pointed response that would kill this, deal with this more decisively, particularly since we know that the estimation of the corporate tax invasion and those that are associated with them bounds into the billions of money. I mean, the case that in a budget that's allocated for profit, not for profit, for budget for education, it doesn't even amount to the amount of tax that particularly the mining sector gives to our fiscus. And given in light of the Marikana Commission yesterday, businesses are being protected, especially the mining sector.
Honourable Mates?
Yes.
You are supposed to do a supplementary question.
Yes, I'm getting there. I was just doing
You've wasted most of your 2 minutes in a speech, ma'am.
2 minutes, okay.
Yes.
I've just been. So in light of the Marikana Commission yesterday, it appears that government is protecting the mining houses. And we had our former Minister of Mineral Resources saying that you lied to the Commission by saying that you were not acting in the interests of business.
Honourable Mates.
So I would like to know...
Honourable Mates.
Yes, Honourable Chair.
You order. The question you put is about tax evasion and capital flight. You have now put a long preamble to a question which you are leading, which has nothing to do with the primary question you posed.
Does, Honourable Chair?
You were given the opportunity. I'm addressing the Honourable Member on who is standing, Tate Mokoena. Please take your seat. You were given the opportunity to redirect yourself. Redirect yourself to a supplementary question to the question you put to the Deputy President. Please. You are given a further chance.
In light of the reports in the Maracana Commission yesterday, Deputy Minister, are you protecting businesses? Deputy President,
yes.
I beg your pardon.
Yes.
Come down, honourable members.
Thank you.
Honourable Deputy President, it is a new question. Are you prepared to respond to it?
I'm prepared to respond.
Thank you, sir. Please take your seat, ma'am.
The killings of the Maracana workers.
Please take your seat.
As reported by the Commission.
I think we are on record as government that tax evasion is not only a crime against the state, it's also a crime against the people of our country, ordinary people. And it is a practice that we would like to discourage, to root out of our body politic so that people do not evade paying their taxes. And to the extent that anyone, be it an individual or a company or corporation, evades to pay taxes, they should ordinarily be pursued by the prosecuting authorities. And we've got a very effective revenue service, SARS, that is able to identify whether people or companies are evading taxes. And if any one of us knows people or companies that are evading taxes, that should be reported to the authorities and they should take appropriate action. Thank you.
The Honourable De Beers, the Honourable Mutlashuping, the Honourable... Is that a point of order? I've already taken the third hand. Honourable members, the first bite of the question goes to the person who put the question. Please bear with me, Deputy President. We are still in the learning phase. Then the three supplementaries are preferably given to any other member in the House. The first time around, the reason I took Honourable Laboskachne again was that there was no any other member, and therefore I reverted. In this instance, I have recognized 3 hands already. In that order, please. On a point of order, Ntate Mokoena.
Chair, I wanted to call order on the issue that when a certain member of Parliament is asking questions, there's intimidation, even from the presiding officer, that she cannot be allowed to ask her question, and there's intimidation from the House. That it's not fair. Can the chair please call order on that?
The chair is in order. Honourable members have the opportunity to put questions. They are then given 2 minutes to make their supplementary questions. No, the response is 4. They are then given 2 minutes to make a supplementary question. Honourable Matthias was given that opportunity. Now, a follow-up or a supplementary question is a question which is directly related to the question which was put. Honourable Mokoena, I'm not going to do a toing and froing. You have said that you are being intimidated. You will not be intimidated. That is taken on. But the Honourable Member was given her full time to put her supplementary question. Honourable De Beers, you have the floor.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Deputy Chairperson. South Africa is an international role player in the global environment. And looking at the question, the capital flight from South Africa, what measures are there to counteract tax evasion in terms of, do South Africa have treaties, agreements with other countries in the global environment? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, South Africa is a player in the global economic environment, and we play in that environment with a great deal of ability, a great deal of enthusiasm, as we live in an interconnected world. We trade with a number of nations, and they trade with us, and there are quite a number of agreements and treaties that we have with various countries around the world. They don't only deal with trade matters, but they also deal with tax matters in terms of ensuring that taxation is consistent across various countries that we deal with at a trade level. And we make sure that those who seek to evade taxes will be caught in the web of all these treaties and protocols and agreements that we have. Thank you.
The Honourable Motlashuping.
No, thanks, Honourable Chairperson. Deputy President, my question relates to the rate of tax evasion in South Africa after 1994. Is it necessarily at an alarming rate, or there is a great improvement that government has put measures to ensure that people do not evade tax?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think what is pleasing with the dawn of democracy is that a number of South Africans have taken up paying their taxes enthusiastically. SARS has, on a year-to-year basis, been reporting more and more people coming forward to pay their taxes. And we see it in the figures that SARS keeps reporting, which means that people are responding to this democracy dividend by saying, likewise, we will pay our taxes, because we see that our taxes are now no longer going to buying bombs and planes that are going to bomb our people and neighboring countries. Taxes are now paying for development, the development of our country, building infrastructure, and improving the lives of our people. What I have found is that more and more companies, more and more individuals are beginning to pay their taxes. And I would say that if one were to look at the statistics, we could possibly find that the tax evasion statistics of people who are evading taxes are coming down, as those who are paying taxes are going higher and higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable von Brandes. The Honourable von Brandes.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Deputy President, what other urgent measures are government going to implement to encourage investors to invest and stay in South Africa to prevent this flight of capital?
Thank you, Chairperson. Clearly, capital flight is something that every country should be very concerned about. Every country should be more keen on getting foreign direct investment, and South Africa has been rather blessed that in recent times we've seen an increase in foreign direct investment flowing into our country, and with more and more companies and countries becoming interested in doing business with us. And as the President did say in his State of the Nation address, what we seek to do as we radically transform at an economical level our country is to make sure that we make South Africa an attractive place to do business. And making South Africa to be a place to do good business means that we've got to improve our infrastructure, reduce the regulatory burden that many companies feel that it impedes them investing more enthusiastically in South Africa and make South Africa a more friendly investment environment. This we are committed to doing, and various government departments are taking a number of steps to move in that direction. And we are actually taking active steps to encourage foreign direct investment in our country. And at times, as the President travels around the world, most of what he does is to try and encourage various companies and various countries to come and invest in South Africa. And we are improving on an ongoing basis with regard to creating a conducive climate for further foreign direct investment to come to South Africa.
Thank you, honourable members. That takes care of the 4 supplementaries and the question. We move on to our third question.
Thank you, Chairperson. In relation to the third question, the government of South Africa has communicated its unequivocal and strongest condemnation of Israel attacks against Palestinians in Gaza to the government of the State of Israel. And we've done this through a number of measures. A démarche was issued by Deputy Minister Noma India Mfeketo, who summoned the Israeli ambassador to her office on the 16th of July 2014 at the height of this conflict. A meeting between the Israeli Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs and the special envoys that were appointed by our President, Dr. Zola Skweyiya and Aziz Pahad, was held on the 28th of July in Israel. Furthermore, the special envoys delivered President Zuma's letter to the Israeli Prime Minister, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, and in the letter, the President expressed our condemnation of the attacks against Palestinians in Gaza. The government of South Africa is not considering suspending diplomatic relations with Israel. Maintaining diplomatic relations with Israel allows our country to continue to engage with Israel on issues of mutual interest, including the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Because of the diplomatic relations that exist between the two countries, President Zuma was able to dispatch these 2 envoys to convey South Africa's grave concern at the security situation, and this we would not have been able to do if we had curtailed diplomatic relations with the State of Israel. We chose to do so, to remain engaged with the State of Israel, because it is often best when you want to solve problems to remain engaged so that you can have some leverage. And this gave our President leverage to be able to send the 2 special envoys. Furthermore, maintaining diplomatic relations with Israel allows South Africa to maintain its presence in Ramallah. The government of South Africa joins the international community in calling for an end to the violence in the Middle East. It is our conviction that there will be no military solution to the current challenges facing Israel and Palestine. Only a negotiated settlement will bring about a lasting and durable solution to the problems facing the Middle East. Accordingly, we call on all sides to the conflict to observe the terms of the current ceasefire agreement negotiated in Egypt just yesterday. We hope that this agreement, which was crafted yesterday and was celebrated in the Middle East, particularly in the Palestinian areas, will lay a foundation for a comprehensive ceasefire agreement when the parties meet once again in a month's time. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honorable Matime. It's not coming on.
Modulasetulo wa ntlo ye hlomphegang ke tše sebaka se ke leboge motlatši wa mopresidente le kgono ga re file ditaba tše tšwang kgodung ya lerotse re rutegile modulasetulo re bile re a kgotsofala gore naga ya Republiki ya Afrika Borwa e dira go tlala seatla go kgontišiša gore le lengwe la matšatši kua Middle East bana ba ma-Palestina le bomme ba bona le batšofadi ba bona go te le bona ba la ba ma-Israela ba robala boroko ke a leboga.
That was, Deputy President, not a supplementary question. I think it was an elaborate thank you. Honorable members.
Re lakatsa gore go be bjalo gore batho ba kwa Palestina le ko Israel ha ba sign tumelano e ya ceasefire ba kgone go robala boroko matsatsi a latelang le dikgwedi tse latelang re tshepa gore le dilemo tse latelang gore go ska tlhola go ba le dintwa di fele kwa Middle East ke seo se re se lakaletsang rona re le batho ba South Africa.
The Honorable Mateis, the Honorable Malakias, the Honorable Ntebe.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Deputy President, again it appears that business is being protected by government, and in this particular case, Jewish business, who seems to be putting pressure on our government not to suspend diplomatic relations. I mean, how can we not view this, or how can we not view us not suspending our diplomatic relations with an apartheid state as not supporting the apartheid state of Israel? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you. As I said in my reply, that the decision that our government has taken is not to suspend or curtail diplomatic relations, and this was done with a specific purpose in mind. And let's accept that there are two views on this. The one view is that cut all links and engagements with the state of Israel. The other view is that retain those diplomatic relations because through that you remain engaged and you are able to bring about some measure of influence even as you voice your protest. Our government chose the latter, that we will remain engaged, we will voice our protest, and this enabled us to have some leverage, to be able to send two special envoys, Dr. Skweyiya and Mr. Aziz Pahad, who were both senior-ranking ministers in the government of South Africa, to go and engage with the government of Israel, in Israel itself. And through this, they were able to fully articulate our government's opposition, our government's grave concern about the situation out there. We'd like to believe that they did make some headway. And as the ceasefire has now been signed, we must know that there are many people, many countries that make all sorts of efforts to get warring parties to come to the table. And we believe through the reports we have received that they did make South Africa's voice heard very, very clearly, and we are rather pleased that a ceasefire has now been arrived at or agreed to, and it seems to be a long-term type of ceasefire, and we hope that the people of Israel and Palestine will be able to find peace and stop the killing and the slaughter that has been taking place. Thank you.
Honorable Michilakis.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I was just going to say it's Michalakis, but I'll forgive you for the previous one. It's all Greek to most people. Honourable Deputy President, from your first reply, I think it is safe to presume that the South African government will continue to work towards a negotiated settlement, towards a permanent and peaceful end to the conflict. If so, and I would like you to be very specific in this, how do you see the South African government's role in going about and achieving this peaceful end to the conflict? A settlement that is permanent. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. South Africa has developed a particular DNA when it comes to settling conflicts. And that DNA is that conflicts are best settled through negotiation, are best settled when warring parties sit around a table and find one another and reach a settlement. That is what we've been bequeathed as South Africans by the founding fathers of our nation. This is what has brought us where we are today. We negotiated our own conflict through negotiation. This is something that we enthusiastically always want to export. Not in an imposing way, not in an arrogant way, but just to share experiences with other countries. And to this end, President Zuma appointed 2 envoys, as I said, to go to the Middle East to interact with the conflicting parties in that part of the world. Our commitment, our mission, our objective is that we should see the Middle East conflict being settled through negotiation and in a permanent way. How are we going to do this? We will use all manner of strategies and tactics, if you like. Most of them can never really be specific, and the most specific one is to say that the warring parties must sit around a table and negotiate and find one another. The appointment of the 2 special envoys by President Zuma is actually quite a defining act. Not many countries have done that. We've done that, and they are out there interacting with the various parties and reporting to President Zuma on an ongoing basis in terms of either the progress or the discussions that they are having. So we want to see a more permanent settlement ensuing out there. And that is why we hail and applaud the ceasefire agreement that was arrived at. And we hope that that leads to a more permanent, peaceful solution. And by the way, we're not acting alone. We have a number of other parties that are involved in this conflict who are trying to bring as much assistance as they possibly can. And we're rather pleased that Egypt provided the stimulus to ensure that a settlement was reached. And we will stand behind anyone who is prepared to ensure that there is peace in the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Mtabi.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Deputy President, you were so eloquent in identifying that South Africa is part of the international community and therefore has a special role to play in the ongoing struggle to bring about cessation of hostilities there. And is it this government's wish that the special envoy continues to play a critical role moving forward in the light of the cessation of hostilities brought about yesterday's agreement? And are there any history lessons that we want to bring about deriving from our history as the nation? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. When President Zuma appointed the 2 special envoys, one of his objectives was to get them to familiarize themselves with the situation out there and to meet with the various parties, both on the Israeli side and on the Palestinian side, and to engage them and to share our own experiences with them and to show them that how we went about solving our own problems, which at some stage the world thought were intractable problems without any form of a solution. And these two envoys, Dr. Skweyiya and Mr. Aziz Pahad, are eminent South Africans who have lived through our own transition process and participated in it and led it in a number of forms and ways. And they are going to be able to bring their experience, what they have lived through, to bear in terms of sharing South Africa's experiences with the parties in the Middle East. I expect that they will remain engaged in the Middle East for quite a while and make sure that they give whatever assistance or share whatever experiences with various parties in the Middle East. Our objective is to ensure that we have a peaceful world right across the board, and we have a lot of experience in this regard. Our own president, President Zuma, was a special envoy in Burundi, and he participated in that process for quite a long time until the people of Burundi were able to settle their own differences and their own conflicts, and our participation and sharing of experiences were quite meaningful, and they appreciated that, and they appreciate that to this day. So we hope and trust that the same will obtain as our two envoys continue to engage with the situation in the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, that concludes our response to question number 3. Deputy President, we move on to question number 4.
Thank you, Chairperson. With regard to question number 4, provincial councils on AIDS have been established in various forms in all our provinces. At the present moment, the Provincial Council on AIDS exists, as I said, in all provinces. 5 of these provincial AIDS councils are chaired by premiers, and that is in Gauteng, in KwaZulu-Natal, in Limpopo, in Mpumalanga, and in the Northern Cape. In the Eastern Cape and the Free State and the Western Cape, the provincial councils that have been established have been delegated to the MECs for Health, and they are led by the MECs for Health. In the Northwest Province, the Provincial Council on AIDS has been established as a public entity in the office of the Premier. As the chair of the South African National AIDS Council, I will engage with the newly appointed leadership in all our provinces around the decision of the Presidential Coordinating Committee that all provincial councils should be chaired by the Premier. We believe that this is preferable, that an important project like this one should be led at the Premier's level so that we bring about strong leadership on an issue as important as this. And in this regard, we also supported in this resolve by a number of other organizations that we work with in the fight against HIV. All 9 provinces have developed provincial strategic plans. These are aligned to the National Strategic Plan for HIV, TB, and STIs for the years 2012 to 2016. These provincial plans have been developed in consultation with key strategic stakeholders and have been communicated widely. In KwaZulu-Natal, a summary version of the provincial strategic plan has been produced and translated into isiZulu. Broad challenges include a shortage of human resources, resource constraints and coordination in the implementation of these programs is also a problem. The SANAC Secretariat provides support to the Provincial AIDS Council as these ongoing basis. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
Your Deputy President, the Honourable Mutara. No supplementary. The Honourable Tlake. Honourable Zwane.
Thank you.
The Honourable Bambo.
Thank you, Deputy President. The provincial AIDS councils and district AIDS councils are regarded as very critical health structures within our communities in order to promote primary health care and its accessibility to the community that have HIV and AIDS. So my question will be, can we regard the National Development Plan as a national framework whereby the provincial AIDS councils can actually draw their strategic plan so that they can have an equal standardized plan where they can have an equal standardized plan, unlike each and every one of it having its own way of treating HIV and AIDS.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. I can say that the National Development Plan is the overarching plan of our country. It's the blueprint that we have embraced and adopted as a country. And similarly, when it comes to the strategic plans which have been developed at the SANAC level, we would like to see a measure of uniformity, a measure of doing standardization and doing things in a similar way. And it is for this reason that it is felt that the Provincial AIDS Council should be led at the premier's level, so that there is no disjuncture. And at the same time, whatever else we do needs to be standardized so that our work on AIDS should be uniform throughout the country, obviously taking into account regional and local characteristics, but we need to be singing from the same hymn book, and also need to remember that we are not a federal country, we are a unitary state, and we need to do things in a standardized way, in a uniform way, as we attack common problems. And this is what we are committed to doing.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honourable Zwane.
Thank you, Chairperson. Your Excellency, the Deputy President. It is a known fact that SANAC has done a great deal of good work in the fight against HIV and AIDS. To that extent, I would like to know if SANAC has actually developed an effective monitoring and evaluating tool to track down the performance of the provincial AIDS councils, but also to inform policy and strategy review. Thank you, Deputy President.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, SANAC, to its great credit, has done a great deal of work. Much of the successes that we have recorded and are recording in our fight against HIV/AIDS have been led and coordinated by SANAC. There was great wisdom in setting up SANAC, because through SANAC we've been able to bring together various role players who are able to bring wisdom, good ideas, and various levels of energy to make sure that our response against HIV and AIDS is properly coordinated. Now, when it comes to the monitoring and evaluation, that is an ongoing process. We're sharpening our wits, we're sharpening our capability when it comes to monitoring, and SANAC is doing everything that it can to make sure that our monitoring processes throughout the country are properly aligned, particularly in relation to the Provincial AIDS Council. And it is for this reason that we want the leadership at the Provincial AIDS Councils to be led at the previous level, where better coordination can take place, where we are able to get the political leadership and the buy-in of all the provincial executive councils. And through this, we believe that we will be able to gain more traction as we monitor and as we make greater progress in our fight against HIV and AIDS. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Mpambo.
Thank you, Chairperson. To you, Deputy Minister. My question is, Deputy President, pardon me.
No, it doesn't matter. They both fit.
Thank you for not being position aligned. Thank you for that.
Yes.
Deputy President, my question to you is based on the Provincial Council on AIDS.
Yes.
I want to know, are these going to be the usual talk shop on the ruling party, which has been, or what have these achieved thus far in order to combat this? And lastly, Deputy Minister, we have seen that Deputy President, maybe you'll be minister next time in the next 5 years.
It's the same thing, doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you. Deputy President, we have seen South Africa with all AIDS-related diseases acquiring approximately plus minus 450,000 infectious diseases. And we know that you are connected with SADC. And I want to know the measures that you are putting in place, how far have they achieved in trying to combat this?
Thank you.
Proceed, Deputy President.
Thank you, Chair.
You have two questions instead of one.
Yes, indeed. Are the Provincial AIDS Councils talk shops? I'd like to believe they are not. And if they were talk shops, what measures we are taking now is going to strengthen them. But they are not talk shops. They are quite effective. And what we're seeking to do is to strengthen them. What is pleasing is that our provinces have taken this task on with a great deal of commitment and determination. I have found that a number of our provincial AIDS councils are doing really good work. They're doing good work because the fight against AIDS cannot be done at the central level only. It has to be done at all levels. And the provincial aspect plays a very key and important role, because it is through our provincial AIDS councils that we have good linkages with various structures, non-governmental organizations, health workers, and health NGOs that enable us to link with our ordinary people on the ground. So they are making progress, and I'd like to believe that they will even make more progress as we move forward, as we strengthen them, and as we ensure that the strategic plans that have been put in place are actually implemented. We want to make sure of that at the SANAC level. In relation to the second question, I'd like to believe that much as our infections may seem to be high and on the increase even slightly, we have made tremendous progress when it comes to our fight against HIV and AIDS. We should never forget that. We've made tremendous progress, and we need to be on the alert at all times to make sure that we continue our struggle against HIV and AIDS to prevent further infections. And we're now beginning to target a number of sectors to make sure that we focus more and more attention on them to reduce the burden of further and higher infections. And we will make progress. We have it within us, and we have the resolve to make progress against our fight in HIV and AIDS. And SANAC is quite effective, and we want to make it more effective as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. President. The last supplementary goes to you, Honorable Matthys.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Our health minister announced during his budget speech that we're going to start the rollouts of ARVs at a much earlier stage, beginning January 2015. My question is that given the shortage that we have with our people accessing treatment, sometimes they start treatment, they get to the clinic, they get to the hospital, the ARVs haven't been delivered, and we understand the dire need for patients who are on treatment to have access to regular treatment. What are we putting in place to ensure that we don't have shortages of ARVs, both in clinics and hospitals, so people who begin the treatment cannot not have access to treatment because we haven't delivered treatment to hospitals? Thank you, Deputy President.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Matthys. Indeed, we have encountered problems when it comes to the delivery of antiretrovirals, medication to various hospitals in specific provinces. And our minister has been very strategic in responding to this. They have put together an intervention plan that is ensuring that those shortages, firstly, are properly monitored on their radar screen at a national level. They have line of sight of where these shortages are happening, and they have put in place systems or measures where they are able to intervene. As we speak now, I know that the ministry is in the process of making all efforts to intervene to ensure that those shortages are addressed as quickly as possible. And I think we should be pleased that we have the ministry that we have that is able, one, to admit that the problems exist, and two, to take immediate remedial steps to address the challenges and the problems that they have. I found them to be very upfront, to be very open, and to be very communicative. And in this regard, I've been rather pleased to find that they have acted with a measure of speed to address some of those challenges. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. Honourable members, that concludes our discussions, responses on question number 4. We therefore proceed, Deputy President, to question number 5.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable members, on question number 5, the sex worker sector is one of the 16 sectors represented in the South African National AIDS Council. The sector is fully engaged in the SANAC Civil Society Forum, the SANAC Program Review Committee, and the SANAC plenary itself. In addition, the sex worker sector participates in the SANAC Human Rights Technical Task Team that deals with legal and human rights. The national response to the HIV epidemic aims to ensure that all those who require them have access to the necessary services. In addition, the conditional grant dictates resources specifically for programs that address the needs of vulnerable groups, including the sex worker community. Research and surveillance activities are currently underway to improve our ability to refine our interventions in these areas. The SANAC Secretariat, working through the country coordinating mechanism, has secured funding from the Global Fund for the implementation of a national sex worker program as highlighted in the National Strategic Plan for HIV, STI, and TB for 2012 to 2016. Thank you, Honourable Chairperson.
The Honourable Dlamini.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. His Excellency, the Deputy President, thank you very much for the answer. Just a correction, it's commercial sex workers, not just sex workers, it's commercial sex workers.
Thank you. I am well corrected.
Just a follow-up question is that are there future plans to involve the clients, the customers, in terms of education and in terms of condom distribution? Because it takes two to tango. So we shouldn't focus on the commercial sex workers and leave out the buyers. So my question, are there plans to involve them in the future? Thank you.
Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. I am well corrected, and from now on, I'll refer to them as commercial sex workers. You ask a question about the buyers. Should we call them commercial buyers? Of a special type, maybe. Chairperson, the research that is underway is going to be all-encompassing. And indeed, it is ideal that when we make interventions that are going to address this challenge that commercial sex workers face, we should not leave out those who are their partners in this act or business or whatever you call it. And indeed, when it comes to things like distribution of condoms and health checks, they too, I would believe it would be ideal that they too should also find a way to participate. But I think the research work and the research results should be able to give us policy options that we can embark on to address this matter more effectively. Thank you for correction as well.
Thank you, Deputy President. I've got Honourable von Lingen, Honourable Kaula, Honourable Mpambo, in that order.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Your Excellency, Deputy President, are you or have you conducted any oversight over the sex worker question that we have in terms of their problems, their distresses and their challenges? And I'll tell you why I ask this. When Honourable Balandlela was the Premier of the Eastern Cape, she did engage with sex workers on specific hotspots and even gave a phone number for them to call her when she is in distress. And it's in that line that I want to question you. Thank you.
Hopefully this number.
Thank you, Chairperson. I am hoping that the honourable member is not suggesting that I should go on these type of do you call them hotspots and dish out my number. But I think this is an important question. It really is, and I would see it falling in the category of this research and surveillance program that is going to be embarked upon. It is important because commercial sex workers are our fellow citizens. They are as human beings as we are, and they participate in this commercial activity, and we need to get to understand what it is that they are involved in and do some research And I would say that that is a very good suggestion, and indeed it will fall in this realm as well. So we should take it up enthusiastically, and I hope that when the research results come out, we should be able to share them so that we gain a better understanding of what is happening with commercial sex workers in relation to the challenges and the problems that they face. Thank you.
The Honourable Kaula.
Honourable Chairperson, thank you, Your Excellency, the Deputy President of our country. In relation to the activities and operations of SANAC and the Provincial AIDS Councils, I would like to know whether the NGOs and the NPOs are seen by government can play a role in the fight against HIV/AIDS, and whether any capacity is given by government to ensure that NGOs and NPOs are properly capacitated to assist in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. The government of the Republic of South Africa always seeks to have inclusive participation in many of the endeavors that we embark upon. And the HIV/AIDS one, addressing this epidemic, is a case in point. And the government initiated the formation of SANAC with a view of creating a forum, an entity in which all those who are concerned with the fight against this epidemic will be involved. And a huge component of those who are involved is the NGO sector, the NPO sector, and various other entities that are involved in doing meaningful work at a community level. The NGOs meet in plenary. They also have a forum where they meet and participate and deal with policy matters and deal with some operational matters to bring about an influence on what SANAC does. The strategic plan, as it has unfolded, was shaped in part and formed in part by the participation of the NGO and NPO sector. Is the NGO sector well capacitated? I think if you were to ask them, they'll say, we can do with more. We want more assistance, we want more help, and we would be very supportive to them getting as much assistance as they can, because NGOs play a very important role in the of our country, in the life of our country, and indeed they make a huge contribution to the progress that we are making against the fight against the HIV/AIDS epidemic. So we want them to be capacitated, and there are various sources of resources that they get, and they range. There's a plethora of sources of funding, sources of capacitation that they get, but they always will need more and more. And the government will always be supportive of ensuring that they get as much help as they possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Honourable Mpambo.
Thank you, Chairperson, and Your Excellency, Deputy President. President, I would like to know what progress has the government made in trying to legalize the commercial sex workers, and as a mechanism to protect the sex workers mainly and to prevent the war against health problems. And
thank you.
If you can answer that for me.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. What progress have we made in legalizing the activities of commercial sex workers? Work that is currently underway at the South African Law Commission. They are looking closely at this, And we're hoping that there will be some policy position that will come forward from them. And I would think that until they come forward with something, let us watch this space, because they are going to do thorough research for us as a nation. And when they do come out with whatever position, we should then be able to see how best we can take it forward in whatever shape or form. And I'm sure following that, there will be thoroughgoing public debates on this very important matter, and I'd like to wait until they come out with their report. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy President. That takes care of question number 5. We proceed to our last question for the day. Deputy President.
The 6th question, Chairperson of the NCOP and honorable members. South Africa is indeed looking at various avenues to ensure energy security, especially through the use of renewables that produce electricity while reducing the emission of fossil fuels. In addition to exploiting abundant natural resources such as coal, our energy demand will be met by expanded use of renewables. In line with the Integrated Resource Plan, about 18,000 megawatts of renewable energy is due to be introduced in the period up to 2030. To date, around 4,000 megawatts has been committed. According to the Department of Energy, this program has brought about 140 billion rand of green energy economy investment into South Africa and created more than 10,000 jobs during the construction phase of the various renewable energy phases of the various projects. Due to the dispersed nature of these projects, local economic development in the most remote areas of our country has actually become possible, and thus has expanded opportunities for many rural communities. And many of these renewable energy projects are in far-flung areas of our country where there is either good solar distribution or wind, and it is actually quite pleasing to see these being rolled out and being installed, and thereafter a mushroom of economic activity beginning to ensue. Finally, the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Program will also help in diversifying our energy mix, diversifying it away from coal, and thereby reduce the country's greenhouse gas emissions in line with our international commitments in relation to climate change. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Stock.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair of the NCOP. Honourable Deputy President, what is the government doing to create awareness and to educate our people in the different communities in regard to the challenges that the energy sector continues to experience? What is the government that is doing to create awareness and also to educate our people? Because the sector is not a new sector. It's not an old sector, it's a new sector. So there are, of course, a number of challenges that the sector continues to experience. So I would like to know from the side of the Deputy President, what is it that the government is doing to educate and also to create awareness in that regard? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairperson. Indeed, this is the renewable energy sector is a new sector in our country. And like many other countries in the world, we have taken to it with a great deal of energy, if you like. We are seeing great opportunities being ushered in to the economic grid of our country as we roll them out one after the other. And as we gain more and more knowledge as a country, and as we gain more and more traction as a people with this, we will need to be spreading more and more information about the efficacy of renewable energy. Renewable energy indeed has to be seen as the future of energy generation and distribution if we are to reduce our gas emissions. And we are abundantly endowed with sun, wind, and now shale gas, and possibly also quite a lot of oil and gas. And we need to exploit these. And as we exploit these, we need to be educating our people and putting out the information so that they can understand. But also as part of this, there are quite a number of spin-offs. One of those is educating young learners, not only to understand it, but to go and gain technical skills. Technical skills at colleges, at universities, both here and abroad, so that they should come back as solar engineers, as wind engineers, hydro engineers. A number of countries that have done so are now benefiting a great deal for having trained their young people. So South Africa has to start and has to speed up the process of educating our young people who are going to be the key players in this new energy mix as we move forward. The other important spin-off, of course, is what I referred to earlier, is the economic dividend that we can get out of this if we invest properly. The economic dividend that can also benefit new players in the economic landscape of our country. The previously disadvantaged companies can also be keen players in this, and we are already seeing quite a number of them beginning to play in this field. So this whole energy sector is about to usher in a great deal of benefits for our country that go way beyond just the generation of energy. It will lead to employment creation. It will also lead to the creation of a number of businesses that will feed into ensuring that our economy grows exponentially. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Mokoena, is there any other hand? The Honourable Labaskachny, the Honourable von Lingen.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable Deputy President, the issue of Sasol has been sitting with us for 20 years now. Sasol is an important and key provider of energy, especially in the natural gas space. But Sasol seems to be shedding shares outside of the limits of our country. And this is becoming a problem because in the agreements with, for instance, with Mozambique and South Africa, in two governments, Sasol seems to be a major shareholder, and therefore we're not in control of those commodities that it provides. It's making strides in Qatar, in the US, and so on and so forth. What are we doing in South Africa to make sure that those shares remain in South Africa so that we can provide, especially natural gas, to RDP houses and so on and so forth? And why are we not using LPG to provide such energy to the poorest of the poor? Because you see, from our perspective, Sasol should just be nationalized. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Deputy President.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm not able to maybe answer intelligently on the sale of shares outside of our country. And I know that from what one reads in the papers that Sasol, yes, is involved in forays in a number of areas in the world, Qatar and places like that. And possibly that is their business model. The business model is that they will go out there and invest in various economically viable projects. And they are also in Mozambique. As I know, in Mozambique, they are exploiting or importing the gas from Mozambique and bringing it into South Africa. And years ago, as I traveled around the country, I saw huge pipelines being built between Mozambique and South Africa and bringing the gas from Mozambique to South Africa. I'm not fully aware of the agreements and the protocols that have to do with that. I'm not able to comment on the efficacy of the nationalization of Sasol, and I'm sure that the member from the EFF will have a great deal of deeper knowledge about that. But I think proper engagement with Sasol on the type of programs that they're embarking on would be a good thing, so that we understand clearly. Gas has proven to be one of the cheaper forms of energy, and in a number of countries it falls in the category of cheap energy that would be good for people at the lower end of the income bracket. And so therefore there is a case to be made for LPG and for gas to be distributed more generally. And I'm sure that as we move towards exploiting our own resources like shale gas, we will be able to unlock a Pandora's nest of great benefits from an energy point of view. So that will be my answer, Chairperson.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable Labuschagne.
Thank you, Chair. Honourable Deputy President, I want to know why has government failed to prioritize a balanced mix of energy sources as proposed in the energy plan, but instead of that decided to go for a sort of an all-in fruit salad sort of approach, which could result in our children's generation having to pay for very expensive energy as a result of these decisions.
Thank you, Chairperson. If we remember what the President announced during his State of the Nation address, he spoke about, at great length about our strategic outlook on energy mix. And in saying so, he said we're moving more and more towards having what I would regard as a balanced energy mix that is going to incorporate, yes, fossil fuels in the form of coal, that will incorporate renewable energy, solar, wind, and that will also incorporate nuclear, and all those will be brought into the mix to provide good energy. And all this falls into the category of infrastructure development, the lack of which has been a huge constraint on our economic growth. And if we can resolve the energy problem or challenge in our country, we should be able to see our economic growth going up on an exponential basis. So, yes, it is going to cost money. Infrastructure projects don't come free. They will cost money, and similarly, rolling out energy projects of whatever nature, be they coal, be they oil and gas, be they shale gas, be they wind, be they hydro, will indeed cost money, and in nuclear as well. What I think will be the key challenge for us is to find a balanced way of financing all these projects. As we grow economically, because this is like capital investment. This is not current investment. We will be investing so that our economy can grow. And as the economy grows, we should have the wherewithal at a financial level to be able to finance some of these projects. And there are quite a number of financing packages and programs and proposals that we can bring to bear, and some of which have to do with vendor financing some of the projects. Some vendors would be very keen to finance some of our projects, and some will come with softer terms as we roll out these projects. So there's a plethora of ways of financing some of these projects. And I would say that we should not be too afraid. We should move forward, obviously cautiously, and try and do most of things within our means, but at the same time remembering that we are investing for the future and we are investing for economic growth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy President. The Honourable van Lingen.
Your Excellency Deputy President, ek wil dit in Afrikaans sê, want die mense sê dit so mooi in Afrikaans.
Ja, jy kan voorgaan.
Ek wou nie hê Suid-Afrika moet ons siele verkoop vir 'n pot lensiesop nie. En daarmee bedoel ek, ons moenie noodwendig in nukleer ingaan sonder om nigter daaroor te dink nie. You now mentioned that we could go nuclear. And the question was specifically raised about making our children pay for what we're doing now. Now, when we look at the energy mix and we look at the current cost of nuclear, which has increased almost tenfold over the last couple of years, and weigh that against the renewable energy options, should we not open up more IPPs so that we can explore the opportunities of green foreign investment, which you mentioned, rural development, which you mentioned, and the cost of effective energy, and with that goes jobs. So my question is, can't we open up the IPP sector?
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Net soos jy sê, ons moet nie bang wees om te dink. Ons moet dink, en partijmale moet ons dink uit die box. Ons moet uit die box dink, because thinking is one of those things that we should do on a continuous basis. And when we embark on programs, it does not mean that a great deal of thought has not gone into them. And if one listens very carefully, we're not being reckless when it comes to this. We are saying we will have an energy mix. And the energy mix is going to be such that we will rely on a variety of energy sources. Yes, coal, which has been the cheapest for us so far because we are so well endowed with fossil fuels, with coal. The Waterberg is brimming in a sea of coal, and it has stood us in good stead throughout the years. But at the same time, we have to respond to the modern challenges of climate change, so we have to go renewable. We've had nuclear in our country for many years, and it has been deployed quite safely, and it has served us very well, albeit at a limited level here in the Cape. Now, new forms of energy have come to the fore. Wind, solar, hydro, fossil biomass, and all those are good contributors can be good contributors to our energy grid. And we should never say we discard them, we're not interested in them. And it is to this end that 4,000 megawatts have been committed for renewable energy, and we've got independent power producers who are actively involved in contracts and in concessions that they have been given, and they generate those and they sell them to the national grid. And we are going to be looking at a mix of energy production as well as we move forward. But we cannot now say, nee, ons moet nie oor nuclear denk nie. Nee, ons moet nie oor hydro denk nie. Ons moet met alles denk. Because what we want is to have a proper energy mix. Are we going to bequeath huge sums of debt to our children? The answer would be no. We want to safeguard their future. And it is for this reason that we want to invest so that their own future should be secure and they can benefit from the economic growth that we will generate through the investments that we are going to make now. And we will obviously want to have as many ideas as we possibly can. As jy kan denk oor baie slim idees, bring hulle voor, ons wil hulle hoor. Baie dankie.
Deputy President, this brings us to the end of the questions to the Deputy President of the Republic. We thank you very much.
Thank you, members. Thank you.
Honourable members.
Unfortunately, that's where we have to end this special broadcast of the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa answering questions for the first time in the National Council of Provinces. From me, Lucanio Talata, and the team that brought you this special broadcast, we now hand you over to our colleagues in studio in Johannesburg.